All right, so everybody listening, if you're listening as a first timer, thanks so much. Whether it's the podcasting, whether it's the radio, we appreciate you listening. If you are listening to us on one of the 25 radio stations, we're going to greatly appreciate that. I stuttered and fumbled with that, but I apologize to the listeners and viewers with that. If you are listening to us on the podcasting sites, like, subscribe, share, YouTube, Spotify, the list goes on and on, whatever it may be. We greatly appreciate you listening and definitely get this out to as many people as possible. Enough for that. We'll move to the interview here. We have a very special guest right from where I'm at over in Orlando, a hop, skip, and a jump from where I am. We are going to be talking about neighbors helping neighbors, seniors helping seniors, adults in general, kids helping seniors, whatever it may be. It's just people helping people in a time of our country where it seems like everybody hates each other. Unfortunately, it's nice to see an organization such as Neighbors Network really having people help people. I do want people to look into Neighbors Network. It is neighborsnetworkfl.org. They're over in Maitland, Florida, not too far from Orlando if you are listening to us from out of the Florida area. But we do have the chairwoman of Neighbors Network, is Cathy Lieblich here on the program. Cathy, thanks so much for listening to all the jibber jabber I just said, and I'm grateful that you came on the program today.
Thank you for having me, Rob.
So, Cathy, let's talk about how Neighbors Network started. Can you go into that for the viewers and the listeners?
Sure. So in 2010, our founder, whose name is Annette Kelly, heard about Beacon Hill Village in Boston at a national aging conference, which was the first village in the United States. And I'll explain what the village model is. Before I explain it, when Annette returned to the Orlando area, she met with others interested in starting a village. I was one of those people. And what the model is neighbors helping neighbors, like you said. We have volunteers that provide various services and offer activities and programs to older adults in the community. It is a membership organization. By older adult, we have it's 55 and over. Our members tend to be range from the 60s to the 90s in terms of age. And that's the model of it. And so then in 2013, Annette secured a grant from the Winter Park Health Foundation, which is a local foundation here, to start Neighbors Network. So that included developing the infrastructure and recruiting members and volunteers. And we became our own nonprofit 501(c)(3) organization in 2016. So 2016 is when the nonprofit called Neighbors Network, Inc. started.
So, I just want you to clarify for people listening. So, the membership is for the senior that wants some sort of help. Is that what it is? And then people can volunteer and, do whatever that person needs. Obviously the volunteer would do what they feel is comfortable, of course.
Yeah, I can tell you what some of the services are. So they're geared to helping people stay living in their own home in the community. And our members tend to be moderate and low income seniors, but some are higher income. It all depends on whether they feel they want to pay for the services or they want the services from our volunteers. But they do pay a membership fee. We do have scholarships for people who can't afford the fee. And that's thanks to organizations like local women's clubs and Rotary clubs and things like that that have given us funds restricted to scholarships because we don't want to turn anybody away who can't afford the fee. And the fee is not, for some people, it is a lot, but
Sure.
it depends on your perspective and your situation. So the fee is $375 for the year if you pay quarterly. If you want to pay up front, you get a discount. So this is for a single person, one person in a household, $300 it would be. And that's for as many volunteer services as you ask for and get.
Well,
So
So
now
that
in
is a
turn,
pretty good deal, I would say,
it,
for most people. I mean, obviously, times are tough. Everybody,
yeah,
as you stated, Cathy, is not in the same income bracket. But if
right.
you're getting unlimited services daily, weekly, monthly, whatever it may be, you need somebody to cut the shrubs, read to you, help you with your bills, whatever it may be. I
Right.
think that's a pretty, fair price, I would say.
Right. And those things that you mentioned are part of the services that we provide. So, and the rides, often rides, transportation programs for older adults at least, are limited often to medical appointments.
Okay.
So ours are not, it's also in the private car of our volunteer. So it's rides to medical appointments also, but also grocery shopping, hair salons, wherever they want to go, visiting a friend, whatever they want to keep them connected to the community and to get where they want to go. In terms of rides, we do have a limit on it because we have to have enough,
Right.
because it's the most requested service, which is not surprising, right?
Sure.
And so having enough volunteers to meet the request is so important. And so if somebody wanted to ride like every day or a few times a day, we
Right.
can't do that. So it's limited to 4 round-trip rides a month, which can be during the same week or can be spread out, except if they want to go a transportation to one of our activities, which they get an activity calendar each
Mhm.
month, then those rides are not included in the four
Right.
so they
So
can get a ride.
sorry to interject on you,
Yeah,
Cathy, but I just a kind of a quick follow up.
sure.
Obviously, the Orlando metro area is a big area, and
Right.
East Orlando, West Orlando. I mean, it's South Orlando. It can get pretty big as far
Yeah.
as driving places. So, just specifically staying on the topic of driving,
Yeah.
hypothetically, someone lives in Winter Park. Maybe they wanted to see a friend over in Celebration, which is more of a, South Orlando type of deal. How does that play? Would somebody be able to do that? Is there a distance cap? How does all of that play out?
Yeah. It it's not a specific cap, but it is, we don't want it to be too far away for our
Right.
volunteers. So if we have a request like that and we have a volunteer that's willing to do it,
Okay.
then that's fine. But I'm glad you mentioned how big the area is here. So I wanted to mention what our service area is. So our members have to live in one of 9 zip codes.
Okay.
Okay. Our volunteers can live anywhere, but typically don't live far from those 9 zip codes because if they're going to the person's home, they don't, someone might not join, like someone in Celebration might not join to come to go to Altamont Springs just below 436 because it's such a long drive. So our areas are, so there are 9 zip codes, but I'll go into the general of what they are in terms of towns, okay, or
Fair.
cities. So they're Winter Park, Maitland, Eatonville, College Park, Orlando north of Colonial, Baldwin Park, Fern Park, Castleberry, and Altamont Springs below 436.
Okay.
So when we go and tell people about us, like we exhibit or table at an event for older adults. And we're also, when we do that, we're also looking for volunteers. At a point, I'd love to talk about our flexible volunteer opportunities.
Mhm.
But when we go, we tell people the service area first because we could tell people all about Neighbors Network and they would get all excited and say, oh, it sounds like something I want to join. I could use this. I want to meet new people. And then we have to tell them if we don't start with the service area, then we have to disappoint them and
Yeah.
tell them, sorry, you can't be a member. And unfortunately, there are currently no other villages, this model in the Orlando area. But the Foundation for a Healthier West Orange, which would be West Orange County, they're looking at developing
That's
villages.
good.
But whether they'll be like ours or a little different, because villages vary across the country. Across the country, there's an organization called Village to Village Network, which is a national organization that most of us join to network with each other. And there's a conference every year and things like that. They've said there are like, I think, 280 villages across the country. There are as much as 13 villages in Washington, D.C. alone. And
Wow.
in Florida, there are only four of us, villagers.
That's insane because you would think it would be the opposite or even more than 13 in the state of Florida with all the retirees. Obviously, a lot of people moving down to Florida
Yeah,
throughout COVID and that. And obviously, the Orlando metro area and even West Orlando is growing substantially throughout COVID. I mean, I live in, in that Celebration kind of area and beyond Celebration, going into Polk County that area is growing vastly,
yeah.
tons of houses, apartments being put up by the dozens, and it's out of control. So that's pretty crazy how there's 13 in Washington, D.C., but it's only four in the state of Florida.
And I
Crazy.
think, and you mentioned West Orange, which is the area that the Foundation for a Healthier
Right.
West Orange is in. So that's why, they're really looking into developing villages there, which
Okay.
is terrific. We're thrilled because
Yeah.
it's lonely being the only one in the Orlando area.
Well, it's
And
not even just that. You can bounce off ideas. They can take some of your ideas. Maybe they have some.
yes,
And it would be good, obviously, for the state because of the vast growth throughout the Orlando metro area
mhm,
to, hopefully help even more people, than
yeah,
just that small area. And obviously, it's growing and growing. We need more help, especially for the senior citizen population in the area. I do want you to go a little deeper into those volunteer opportunities. Obviously, before we get into that, I do want to tell the audience this is Neighbors Network. Cathy Lieblich here on Fire Breathing Rob. It is Neighbors Network FL.org. Again, Neighbors Network FL.org. So, Cathy, again, I'll just hand the baton to you. If you could just keep driving it home about the volunteer opportunities with Neighbors Network and how you can play with that is of course.
sure, absolutely. So our volunteers are vetted, so they're background checked, they're interviewed by our volunteers chair, and so that people can feel comfortable with someone coming into their home who's a
Sure.
volunteer or driving them in their car and that kind of thing. So um, so what happens is on our website that you just gave, there's a volunteer section. And it talks about volunteering, and in there is an application to be a volunteer. And the application lists all the different services that a person might volunteer to help with. And then when you fill out the application, they check what they want, what they would like to volunteer to do. So how this works is once the person is vetted and becomes a volunteer, whenever a member, let's say someone volunteers to give rides,
Mhm.
um, well, a number of people have. So once a member asks for a ride from a certain location to a certain location, a certain date and a certain time, they volunteer. All the volunteers that said they would give rides get an email that
Mm.
says so and so would like a ride from here. And then whoever steps up to give the ride gives the ride. So it's not something that's a set day or time. It's on your own schedule. If you read that email and you can do it, wonderful. But if you can't, that there are other volunteers who can do it. And so you don't have to feel the pressure that, oh, I can't do it. I feel so badly. Please don't feel badly because there are other volunteers. But we are always looking for more volunteers and especially people willing to drive, because as I said, it's the most requested service. So, what we always say to our members is, yes, we'll provide these services to you as long as we have a volunteer available to provide the service. Our
How
members understand that, and we have really maybe once or twice had where we had to tell the member, I'm sorry, we don't have a volunteer to do
oh,
that on
wow.
that day, but very rarely.
So
And
then
it'll
the
be even less rare if we can
yeah.
get more people who are willing to drive.
So there are quite a few volunteers that if there's only, that small of a letdown, I guess. I know that's not the greatest word to use, but we'll use that for time purposes.
Yeah, no, it is. It is. We don't like to have to do that. So
Right.
recruiting volunteers is a top priority for us.
I want you to give the audience, Cathy, a little bit of a story, if you could. Maybe you've heard from another volunteer, maybe even particularly from yourself, that you met a senior that this Neighbors Network really changed their life in a drastic way. Because there are a lot of seniors, unfortunately, that maybe they lost their loved one. Maybe their family isn't that close in
Right.
proximity to living to them, or maybe their family's not around anymore. And a lot of seniors do get depressed. They don't want to go in a nursing home because, as there are a few good nursing homes, there's a lot of bad ones,
There's both.
unfortunately.
That's right. There's both. So I'm going to tell you about a member who has a no family.
Wow.
And she said that she considers Neighbors Network members and volunteers to be her family. She has received various services from us, but also participates in our activities and programs where she's developed a very close relationship with another member. They're, so they live in the same neighborhood,
Oh,
but
wow.
they didn't know each other before they joined Neighbors Network. The member with no family has said that judging by her own experience, Neighbors Network will help many people who feel lonely and isolated. So she very much appreciates Neighbors Network and it has changed her life. She has a best friend now and she has people to help her just like family would.
Yeah, and it's really important because at that age, if you don't have anything going on, anybody around for that matter, you start to, even at my age, if you've got nothing going on, you start thinking of silly things, and it leads you down bad paths. So we don't want people at any age to think badly. We want them to keep getting out in the community, whether it's volunteering or even getting the services that Neighbors Network Florida does really give to the community and these people that really need to keep active and enjoy the rest of their life, of course. I do want to come to a close here. And again, for people listening, it is Neighbors Network FL.org. Again, Neighbors Network FL.org. This is Cathy Lieblich here on Fire Breather Up. Cathy, as we come to a close, could you tell the viewers and the listeners how they can, get involved? We know it's go to the website, of course, but any place else they can, come and meet you guys, get involved, what it may be. Also follow you on social media
Yeah.
or any place else for that matter, I guess.
Absolutely, yeah. So you mentioned the website, of course, and there is, in addition to the volunteer section, there's also a member section, where there is a member application. But if they're not, they don't use the internet or they don't want to do that, we have a phone number that they can call. They can call us. Can I give you the number?
Yeah, please.
It's 321-209-2775. And so either way is fine through the website or to call us. And in terms of social media, we're on Facebook. Right now, we're not on any of the other social media platforms. Um, and that's, just have to look up, if you go on Facebook and you search Neighbors Network, you'll find us. If it doesn't come up right away, it could be Neighbors Network FL. So for Florida, because there is a Neighbors Network of Lee County. So in Lee County, Florida, they have started one there. So I don't want it confused with that. But yeah, Neighbors Network FL. If they don't live in the Orlando area, because I know that you're sometimes on radio stations and it's a podcast, so people from anywhere in the country can access your podcast. They can go to the Village to Village Network website. I mentioned that organization before to find out if there's a village in their area. And their website is VTV for Village to Village Network dot all one word .org. And that's
And
if you don't live in the area and they have a map of where villages are or developing villages are.
And I do want to say the website again is neighborsnetworkfl.org. Again, neighborsnetworkfl.org. The telephone number is 321-209-2775. Again, 321-209-2775. If you want to call Neighbors Network, or again, you can also find them on social media with Facebook. It is Neighbors Network FL. Neighbors Network FL. I just checked it out, Cathy. As you were speaking.
Good.
So to make sure we got the correct information for everybody listening and watching this show.
Thank
So
you.
Cathy, thanks so much for coming on. Greatly appreciate your time today. I look forward to having you come back on as the year goes on to keep bringing the good work of Neighbors Network Florida to the viewers and listeners of the program.
I would love to. Thanks, Rob.